Well, Brittany, it is awesome to have you on the podcast. Ever since you spoke at Joel and gave that keynote and energized our audience, I've wanted to have you on here. Thank you so much for joining.
Thanks so much for having me, Robert. I'm thrilled to be here.
I know that you are well qualified and that your bio and work speaks for itself, but I want to start this podcast a little differently than what I have in the past, okay?
Okay.
I'm going to ask you to do some gratuitous name dropping because I was looking at your bio and some of the people and companies that you've done marketing for. Let's let the audience know before we even hear your expertise. Tell us some of the people you've worked with or for.
I have been so fortunate. I have gotten to work with idols and heroes, people like Dolly Parton and Kiss and the Beach Boys and Katy Perry, Taylor Swift. I mean, just on and on and on. I've worked with probably about 150 recording artists, and about 125 of them are giant names that you would recognize.
Yeah, it's epic. It really is quite a client list. I mean, I would love to meet Dolly Parton, let alone work with her. I
Incredible.
mean, what a great list of people. And Brittany, just tell us, briefly, how did that come to be?
So I always knew I wanted to work in the entertainment industry, and I grew up in a really small town. When I was a high school junior, I had the opportunity to go job shadow for a day at a local radio station, and I said, "Please hire me. I will do anything, like anything at all." And the station manager said, "You look like you're about the right size for the mascot costume. Would you like to be the bumblebee?" And it was a pop station called B98, and I was like, "Are you kidding me? That sounds like the greatest job ever." And so I got to work at the radio station, and I thought I was the luckiest person on the planet because I had a front row seat to all of these DJs, all of these live remotes, concert tours, events, not to mention, like we got like free Pepsi from the Pepsi bottling plant. We had free tickets to the radio station, all the things. But then about 6 months after I started there, I had just a phenomenally lucky break, like the kind of thing that sounds like it's from like a 80s teen movie, but actually happened. My maiden name was Jones. And one day the station manager came in and said, I keep seeing ads on TV for this Bridget Jones Diary movie. And I don't know what it is, but I just keep thinking they're talking about Bridget Jones. We have a Brittany Jones. We should do something and call it Brittany Jones Diary. What could we do? And I said, well, you're always trying to get more people to the station website. What if I just interviewed all the bands that came to town? And, that was my diary, like talking to them before they went on stage or writing concert reviews. And she said, oh, like that other movie, that almost famous movie. Yeah, that's getting tons of Oscar buzz right now. We should totally do that. Just make a list of all the bands that you want to see and we'll set everything up with the label. And I was like, wait, what? So overnight, it became my job. I had just turned 17, and all of a sudden, I was getting paid to hang out with rock stars and brag about it on the internet. And we lived in a small market. I grew up right on the state line of Arkansas and Oklahoma, kind of in the middle of both states. And so we were only a couple of hours away from Tulsa and Little Rock and Oklahoma City. Dallas was a little bit further, but I had an older brother who was like, I mean, I'll drive you anywhere if you're going to get us VIP passes and, front row seats to shows. Like, I'll take you to go see whatever show you want to go to. And so all of a sudden, I just became like the thing that I would do on weekends was drive to, Dallas or Kansas City or wherever and interview these bands. And because nobody was doing stuff on the internet, every single label treated it like I was Rolling Stone or something. And it was funny because I would walk in and, I'm this like 100-pound kid with braces, and the fans are like, you're here to interview me. But it was so fun. It did a few things. It spoiled any chances of me ever getting, a real job because I was like, I'm getting paid for this. Like I'll never forget they were paying me mileage. I was like, you're gonna pay me to like drive to go see this band. So I was getting paid. I was getting to do all this great stuff. But it also made me become really fascinated with fandoms and why some artists, became huge and others kind of fizzled out. And why at a radio festival show where there were a dozen artists playing, why some artists were drawing 2, 3, 5 times the crowd size as others, why some were selling way more merch. And I realized it didn't always have to do with the amount of marketing spend from the label. It didn't always have to do with the quality of the single that they were taking to radio. And so I was just constantly trying to like solve the puzzle in my mind. What is it? What is it? What is it? What is it? And when I started to realize that without fail, It was fan engagement. It was the artists who were the most connected to their fans were the ones who were getting that paid back from fans, with fans that were the most loyal and most committed to them. And that's what really started to plant the seed of figuring out this economy around the idea of super fans and how to scale it into something that anybody could use to grow their brand and their business, whether they're working in the entertainment industry or, the financial services industry.
I love that. It's such a great story of how you took a great opportunity and then turned it into a business and a career, and your book, which is awesome, creating super fans, how to turn your customers into lifelong advocates. And that book is a big part of the reason why we had you speak at Jolt and why you're here today, because financial advisors need that. They want their clients to be advocates, and the clients who promote their advisor, they bring the most referrals, they help drive the most growth, they make the advisor's life better, they're better to work with. There's so many things. And so I know a lot of your study, the research you've done firsthand and otherwise, has helped you to identify basically a framework for this, a rubric, you could say. And I'd love to talk to you about that. I think if I remember right, it's an acronym for super, right? Off of your books, it's Superfans. So
It
can you
is.
tell us a little bit about this framework? How can somebody who's not a superstar, right? Like, I'm not Taylor Swift. Like, nobody is. Okay. So how is this possibly going to apply to me as a business owner, as a financial advisor?
Yeah. Well, so the first thing I would say is you've got to understand that super fans are created at the intersection of your story and every customer story. What you've got to do is overpower what I think is the sneakiest uh, threat that's out there, because it doesn't get a lot of airtime. Nobody's really talking about it, but it is so powerful. And that is apathy. Like, not a lot of advisors are like, I have an apathy problem. Some might think like, oh, I've got an awareness problem. I need more people to know about all the great things that I do. But in reality, lots of people know they just don't care. You haven't given them a reason to transcend from a commodity provider to a category of one. You haven't shown them that you're not just like, another guy or gal in a striped hat and shirt. You are Waldo. Like, you are the one they are looking for. And the way that you do that is with your story, by sharing it in a way that is going to connect, that's going to be memorable, that's going to make them get it, right? Like, super fans are created at the intersection of your story and every customer story. So that's like the first thing to understand, because the question I always like to ask advisors is, why do you deserve super fans? What are you doing that is better than every one of your competitors? And by the way, not just other advisors, like, what are you doing that's better than somebody being like, yeah, this mutual fund is fine? What are you doing that's better than somebody who's like, I'll just put it in a high yield savings account? What does it matter? Like, your competitors aren't just your direct competitors. It's all the other things that people could be doing with their money. It's like, I'm going to just throw an epic party and, hope my friends take care of me, like all of the things. So my first question is, like, why do you deserve super fans? And why should someone care about you at the exclusion of all of their other options?
So as I think about that, we are in an industry where there's a lot of overlap in services and the
Mhm.
way advisors position themselves. And I know that your expertise goes beyond just financial advisors, but I'm sure you've dealt with other industries where everybody provides a very similar type of service. So you asked a really important question. What are you doing that's above and beyond, that goes beyond what your competitors do, and will break people out of the apathy? Have you seen any examples of small business owners that have done this really well? And can you share some of those examples?
Yeah. So I think one of the first things is getting very specific about the steps in a customer's journey, how they're beginning to interact with you. And if you are in a field where your services overlap a lot, where somebody is like, wait, I don't quite understand where financial advising stops and like accounting ends, or financial advising stops and like insurance advising, like when people are like, I know I need a lot of things, but I don't know how they all fit together. I don't know what the like financial stack is and how they all go together. So one of the first things that you can do is to over-educate your audience. Before you're like knocking down their door trying to like get them to meet with you, give them so much information in a curated, thoughtful, intentional way for them to truly understand what it is that you do, what the problem is that you solve, and how you can help them. Help them imagine what it's going to feel like to be a customer. One of the things that I talk about, and I know you asked me to get into the supermodel framework, which we will, but one of the things that I like to talk about is this idea of intentional experience design. So bringing intentionality to every single moment that you know is a predictable recurring moment in your customer's journey. So you know that everyone is going to have the first time they talk to you on the phone. You know everyone is going to have like the drive home from the first meeting they have with you. You know everyone is going to have that first annual review when they're a customer. Like whatever it is, whatever those touch points are, ask yourself, what can I do to elevate this into a memorable, meaningful moment? Like, how can I turn this into something that my friend Jay Bear would call a talk trigger? That somebody is going to be like, I can't believe how great this was. I've got to tell somebody about it. I've got to post about it online. I've got to, tell my friend. I'm going to talk about it at lunch next week with somebody. How can you bring intentionality to that? Because I am a firm believer that there are only 3 types of interactions anybody ever has. Like every single experience you have in your life is going to go one of 3 ways. At the end of that experience, you will feel better, worse, or the same as you did before it started. That's it.
Yeah.
And the overwhelming majority of experiences that we have are neutral. They're like nothing burgers. We just process, what we're given. We're like somebody, blurts out a bunch of information at us. We fill out forms. We're kind of like deer in the headlight. And we end up the same or sometimes even a little worse as we were before. If you can intentionally curate those touch points to where you're leaving your prospect or your customer better, think about what that means. That means you're always leaving them better than you found them. You're always making their day better. You're always making their experience better. So the intentionality to say, not like I need 5 magical giant moments that are going to be hard to engineer and like very, bespoke every time. You can do that if you want, that's fine. But like where you really win and lose are the everyday things, like the blocking and the tackling, like getting the basics better than they have to be, having it not be neutral, but be positive. So what are those moments? What are those touch points where you can say, I don't want to just make it feel like, okay, it was like somewhat frictionless. It was okay. I want people to be like, wow, that was great. Or wow, that was easy. Or wow, I am better than I was before.
Yeah. Do you think consumers have a higher expectation for this type of thing, or do you think consumer expectations are actually lower, and so it makes it easier to do this?
It's a great question. I think probably a mix of both, depending on the generation of customer that you're talking about, and also the touch point. Like if somebody is trying to do something completely online, completely on their phone versus going in. But regardless, what I do know is that in this experience-driven economy we're living in, 86% of people will pay more for the exact same product or service if they know they're going to have a great experience. And experience is a more correlative determining factor of how long somebody will stay with you than brand or price. So if you can exceed their expectations, if you can create a great experience, people are more likely to be loyal, and they're more likely to tell their friends about you. They're more likely to refer someone to you, which is obviously what we want in an industry that can feel very much like it is driven by commodity factors.
Yeah, I love that. Actually, when I used to run a financial planning practice and I invested into the systems and processes that would create a great experience for our clients, there was a couple little things we did that were so simple, but you made me think of them. Every time people would come in, we had fresh baked cookies. We always, every morning, the person who ran the front desk would come in and bake fresh cookies, and you would smell them in the office, and people could always get a chocolate chip cookie or an oatmeal raisin cookie or a lemon sugar-free cookie if they were sugar-free. And everybody raved about that. It was amazing how they would come in for that. And then, we invested in really comfortable seating for the lobby and a nice fireplace that was going. And people would say, I could just sit here all day. I love it here. And those things are intangible. You don't measure them on the balance sheet, but they do have a big impact. And I remember how they had an impact on our clients. So this resonates with me.
Yeah, they have a huge impact. And if you know clients that are coming in, even little things like like asking what they want to drink and then recording that in your CRM so that the next time they come in, the person at the front desk can say like, "Oh, Miss Hodak, would you like a Dr. Pepper?" Or, like whatever it is that they had last time. I've heard people talk about um putting out magazines and books the night before based on who's coming in the next day. So you can say like, oh, Mr. Sanders, I've got the new issue of Architectural Digest right here for you if you haven't taken a look at it yet. Little things like that. I'm getting over like this horrible bronchitis, and I went to a walking clinic the other day, and the rooms, like the exam rooms, had these like beautiful portraits of all of the dogs of everybody at on the staff. And it had like a little placard underneath it that told you like the doctor or the nurse practitioner or whoever the dogs belong to. And I was like, wow, what a cool thing. Because, you know, it's a walk-in clinic. Like I don't know anybody there. Like I don't know any of the doctors. I don't know any of the nurses. I just like want somebody to, you know, help me feel better. And I was like, what a cool way to create a human touch point of like, now I'm not just thinking of you as like the on-call nurse practitioner who's hopefully going to like prescribe me some steroids. I'm like, oh my gosh, your dog Otto is so cute. Tell me about Otto. So just little things like that of how you're inviting customers or prospective customers into your world, making them feel a little bit at home and making their day a little better. I have a dentist that I love here in Nashville, and like every time at the end of the dentist appointment, on your way out, the hygienist says, "Oh, can I make you a smoothie for the road?" And they've got a smoothie bar, and they make you a smoothie and send you on your way. Just like little touch points like that.
Yeah. Man, makes me want to go to the dentist. So Brittany, the supermodel framework, which you know, I know we don't have time to go into really deeply. The first letter is S, right? Is that story what you covered
Yes.
already?
So yeah, the acronym is super. I wanted to make this something that would be super simple to remember, because if you will do these 5 things, if you follow this framework, I promise you, you will make more money and be more successful. It is impossible not to if you follow these 5 steps. And this is for everyone in your organization. So S stands for start with your story. And I say start with your story, not lead with your story, but everything has to originate from your story. Just like we were talking about before. Why do you deserve superfans? What is it about you that would make your ideal customer crazy for not choosing to work with you for all of their financial planning needs? That's the S. You've got to nail that, because if you don't know, no one else is ever going to figure it out. And you're going to continue to be seen as a commodity. And you're going to win some of the toss ups, like you're going to get some clients, but it's going to be people who are going to be very likely to abandon you if somebody else comes along and like dangles, you know, a shiny object or a carrot in front of their face. So start with your story.
Okay, I like it. So I am struggling with this. I don't know my story, hypothetically speaking. I'm not sure I can clearly articulate that. How do I discover it?
Well, a really great way is to buy my book.
Very
um,
good. Good plug right there. Absolutely.
yes, Creating Superfans, available in an audiobook and a hardcover everywhere books are sold. No, seriously, one of the ways to do it is to get clarity on your origin story. Every great superhero has one, and so do you. You could be doing anything. Like you could do anything on this earth. Why are you doing this? And
Mm.
start to answer that question. And you know, I always love to give freebies away. Robert, I'll give a how to craft a bio guide away for anybody who's needs some help, who wants to think about this. But you've got to get clarity on this. Like, do not skip this step. It's like building your marketing foundation on sand. If you don't know your story, your uniqueness, the thing that makes you different and better than everyone else. Because without your story, and I cannot emphasize this enough, you are a commodity provider. You are interchangeable with everybody else out there that can like look at numbers and do stuff. Did you choose to do this because you grew up in poverty, or you saw people you love grow up in poverty and you want to make sure that never ever happens to anybody else, and you want to help create intergenerational wealth? You want to help people be secure in their fortunes? Or maybe you got into this because you've always had access to the finer things in life and love them, and you want to help people make sure that they always have that as available to them. Like, whatever it is, whatever your unique story is, you have to get comfortable telling it, because the fact that you are an advisor means that you are 100% a brand. You are saying to somebody, pick me instead of someone else. And your story is a huge part of that, whether you want it to be or not. And if you are not controlling that narrative, one of 2 things are happening. Either someone else is controlling that narrative, or there's like not a definitive narrative at all, which is even worse. So your personal brand is what people say about you to others. You've got to be in control of it. So you have to start with your story. Why are you the absolute best choice? Why would somebody be crazy to go with another advisor over you?
I love that. So the brand or bio building worksheet. Thank you. You're going to share that with everybody. That's awesome.
Yes.
Brittany, I also know that some of the things that you teach are related to how every interaction in a business can make your clients feel cared for. And we were talking a little bit about gifting earlier. And I know that's
Yeah.
something you said you would give away to our audience as a gifting guide. I wanted to talk about that a little bit because advisors do often want to gift for their clients, but choosing the right things and doing it in the right way is not always easy. So, can you give us any good recommendations for how and when to do acts of kindness for clients and what's effective?
Absolutely. So as we go on up the supermodel ladder, the U stands for understand your customer story. And I said before, superfans sort of exist where those two circles of the Venn diagram merge. Part of understanding your customer story is getting to know what they would like. And you are going to have some customers who will love gifts. You will have others who will not be as moved by gifts. And being intentional about how you capture that information, some of it by asking, some of it by inferring, throughout the entire customer journey. So some of it is, the intake, some of it is the annual review, how you get to know those customers. And we'll kind of like move quickly through this, but the P stands for personalize. And that's really where you bring those two worlds together, your story and theirs. At Jolt, I talked about the fact that there's really two types of personalization. There's the high tech and there's the high touch. And when you can combine the both of those together is where you truly create high impact. And so with gifting, there are some things that you can automate that you just know, like, all right, here are the 5 onboarding gifts. And every time I have a new client, we're going to pick the one that makes the most sense and we're going to send it. But then also having those really high touch ones of what do you do when someone has a new baby? What do you do when someone has a kid who graduates from high school? What do you do when somebody loses a family member? What are all of these? What is your response to these things? Because you want your clients to know that you're paying attention to their lives and that you're here for them no matter what happens. So I'd mentioned before we started recording that I put together a guide of 75 pretty spectacularly awesome gifts across every touch point, across every price point that people can use to really make it seem like you know a client really well. So we'll give that away too. So anybody who's looking for great suggestions or great recommendations, I also have some tips in there about how to save on shipping, like a few of my favorite hacks of some subscription websites where if you pay like, $20, $30, $40, whatever it is for the year, you can like ship for free all year long. So that makes it really, really great to be sending stuff from the same website dozens of times. Sites like Uncommon Goods, Personalization Mall. There's a few others that I mentioned in the free PDF.
Love that. Thank you. That's going to be a great resource. And Brittany, I know that when we do these things, the motivation is to create a great experience for our clients,
Mhm.
and we want them to feel special and appreciated and valued. I also know we are in business and people know that too. And so the return on that type of investment is often in the form of referrals and rave reviews and just happy clients. You have in the past taught about a way to actually take some of that relationship equity that you're building through great experiences and gifts, and then ask for referrals in a way that doesn't make your clients feel like they're being used. And referrals are such a important part of most financial advisors practices, at least those who are growing. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, gosh, probably it's been about a week and a half ago now. I had somebody reach out to me, a realtor who'd seen me in an event, and he was like, I just can't figure it out. I'm not getting referrals. I try to do everything right. I'm not getting them. And I said, okay, well, let's take it to step one. Tell me how you're asking for referrals. And he said, I'm not. And I started laughing, like not on purpose, but I was like, wait, for real? And he was like, wow, I never thought about that. And I was like, you never thought about the fact that you're not getting referrals and you're also not asking for referrals. And he was like, that makes a lot of sense. Like I should be asking. And I was like, you think? And I think this is true in so many industries. We just assume, like, of course, people know I want a referral. people don't know you want referrals. They have no idea what your capacity is. They have no idea what your business model is. They don't know any of this, right? So you have to ask for referrals, but you have to do it in the right way. You never want to do it in a way that feels like you gave a gift and then you ask for a referral, because then it absolutely cheapens it. Giving a gift and then asking for a referral is 10 times worse than not giving a gift at all. Don't do that. You should never give a gift with any expectations of anything, like full stop. The way that you ask for referrals is, I think, well, there's a few things that you can do, and there's actually an entire chapter on this in my book. But one of the things is, like, before you ask for the referral, plant the seed that you're going to be asking for a referral. So, like, during the process, you can say something like, you know, depending on how that person came to you. Like, if somebody came to you as a referral, then you can almost like start from day one planting the seeds of like, oh yeah, like just like, Kyle's the one who sent you our way. I get like 90% of my new clients through awesome people. Like, that's one of my favorite things about getting to do this job. I work with all the best people, and then they send me other great people. So, I'm always here the same way that, like, I'm taking great care of you because Kyle sent you my way. Anybody you send to me is always going to get red carpet treatment. Like, planting the seeds so that when you say at the end, hey, I was just looking over the next quarter and I've actually got the capacity to take on like 3 new clients. So if you happen to know anyone who is in a similar situation who you think I can help the way that I've helped you and you want to refer them to me, obviously I would appreciate that. And I'll make sure that like they get rock star treatment or whatever, whatever the language is that you want to do it. And then you want to be ready with the assets to make it super simple in case they say yes, because you don't want somebody to just be like, oh yeah, like call my friend Dave, right? Like, you want that warm, like double opt-in mutual introduction. So have whatever it is that's going to make an amazing first experience for whoever they're sending your way ready. That you can be like, oh yeah, and here's a one sheet of everything that I offer. Or here's like a 3 sentence, word that, about me that like you can send in a text message or a DM or an email or whatever it is. So don't ever assume that people know you want referrals, because they absolutely do not. Also, you don't want, it's so funny. I'm doing like laser hair removal, and it's like, I mean, whatever, it sucks. It hurts. It's like laser hair removal, but it's like really hard to get an appointment. And they keep texting like, friends and family special, do this, refer people. And I finally texted back the other day and was like, are you kidding me? It takes me 6 weeks to get an appointment. Why would I tell anyone I know about you guys? You have zero capacity. Like, the last thing I'm ever going to do is say like, you should do this, even if you guys are awesome, because you like don't even have time to take care of me. So if somebody feels like, oh, if I refer somebody, that's, like less of time that I'm going to get or less attention, they also might not be willing to do that. So if that's something where you need to like say, oh, and because our team is growing, we've got capacity for XYZ new people or whatever, like whatever you anticipate might be a reason that somebody would think there's something that could be a negative consequence to me if I do this, you want to make sure that you're speaking to that.
Man, there's so much in there. It's solid gold. Thank you.
So much to unpack.
Now, people want to learn about that. That's in your book as well. Any other resources you recommend?
Um, so I mean, I know I don't want to overwhelm people and say like, we'll give you all of the things, but I also have a totally free resource that's all about asking for referrals, and reviews. It's got scripts, it's got swipe files. We can give that away for free too, if you want.
Oh
Should we give
man,
it?
that's nice. I think we should. I
All the
think we should.
goodies?
Let's do
Okay.
it. Well, we'll keep it at those 3 things, but they're awesome. And Brittany, your insights are as well. And thank you for sharing so much value with us today. I do want to ask you, this podcast is called Steal My Strategy. And so I'm sure people's heads are swimming right now with all the knowledge bombs you dropped. But let's give them one takeaway. So you can either highlight something you've already shared or something you didn't share that you think if they turn this off and never do anything else, this is the one thing they should do.
You know, I think that, well, first of all, I'm going to finish the acronym, because anybody like me who's like, like, wait, you didn't do all the letters, so I want to know what super stands for. I think the one thing that you should steal is the obsession with turning your customers into super fans. Don't just close a sale. create a super fan. When you turn your customers into super fans, they will create more customers for you. One of my favorite quotes ever is by a guy named Shiv Singh, who said, "The purpose of a business is to create a customer who creates customers." If you take that frame of mind and say, like, every single customer I have is going to create more customers for me. Think about what that means for your practice. Think about what that means for this like endless funnel of warm, qualified leads of people who are begging to work with you. So what I want you to steal is the idea that you're going to turn every customer into a super fan. You're going to do that by following the super model. S, start with your story. U, understand your customer story. P, personalize. E, exceed expectations. And R, repeat. And the best place to start is to go to brittanyhodak.com/steal, where you can download all of the stuff that Robert and I were talking about. Don't get overwhelmed. There's just a little bit for every letter of the supermodel. You can take all of the resources, you can take some of them, whatever you want, but just steal the idea of not just creating customers, but creating super fans. And I promise, not only will your business grow, but it will be a lot more fun too.
I love this, Brittany. I've learned so much. I can tell you, I'm going to be giving this recording to all of my CX team and saying, this is inspiring. You need to listen to it. And I know our listeners will be inspired as well. Again, Brittany, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Robert. Talk to you soon.